CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success. Hey, everybody, welcome back to CMMS Radio. It's Joe Caetano. He's meeting us here online. He's away from the office, but we really had to talk about some stuff. You've seen him on CMMS Radio before, back at Streamline in February down in South Carolina. We did a couple of episodes. He is with Elevotec, and what they do is they help people. They actually help people with asset management. If you're using Hexagon EAM and anything you've got to do in your maintenance programs, they can help you out. Now, they're up in Canada, but they help everybody in North America. As a matter of fact, do you guys do global stuff like things across the pond, Europe, UK, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some customers everywhere.
Yeah. And by the way, I haven't told anybody about the special things we got going on, but I happen to know that you guys are going to be at SMRP. That's October 6th through 9th in Fort Worth, Texas. For anybody that wants to go to this event, there's an early bird discount right now that expires on September 5th, and you can use CMMS 10 as a discount code so you can slap 10% off on being an attendee. Great workshops, lots of real deal pros that I am friends with, people with real high integrity that deliver the goods, and this guy is one of them. Joe, welcome back to CMMS Radio.
Hey, thanks for having us. It's fantastic to be back and able to talk about some really cool things. And I'm glad you brought up SMRP. Absolutely, it's a place where I cut my teeth. They helped me out tremendously. I was able to get my certifications, even my CAMA certification through them. So very grateful for them and everything that they do. And for those of you that haven't been out there, it's a trip to get out there. The vast amount of experience and people and solutions and things that we can take away every day. One or two things to make life easier or make life better. You're missing a great show if you don't get out there. So I'll be really excited to see you. We don't get to see each other face to face, so be excited to get back up there and have some fun together. So.
Yeah, the last time I saw you was at Hexagon Live out in Las Vegas, like a couple months back. We hung out a little bit on the first day, and then you had to jet.
Yeah.
You were there for a really important meeting, and of course, I mentioned Streamline conferences where we did that earlier this year. We're probably going to do that again in February of 2026. There's a lot of plans going into that. It's going to be a bigger show, but with SMRP, what's cool for me is this is my first time ever going, and everybody's been like on me every year. Greg, are you coming? Greg, are you coming? Greg, are you coming? Last year it got canceled, unfortunately. But the good thing about that was, it kept people safe. They didn't have to get, in harm's way with the hurricane and all that. And now that it's going to be in Fort Worth, we should be okay. Another cool thing about SMRP is, like Ramesh Gulati. Everybody knows him. If you don't, if you've got his book, he really is. He wrote the book when it comes to maintenance and reliability best practices. Obviously, he's part of Reliability X. You're friends with them,
Oh yeah.
which I love because there's this concept in the industry that we're always talking about when we're not recording, where people are fighting over the same small piece of pie, and you guys don't really do that. You're not only friendly, but talk a lot about strategy. There's a lot of mutual respect. So for me, that's really cool because I try to be agnostic and remain neutral. Now, there was a post somewhat recently, I think it was within the last week and a half to 2 weeks, where you guys posted about your mission is to focus on building business first solutions that simplify complexity, protect operations, and give leadership full confidence at every stage. Now, what does that really mean when you put something like that out on LinkedIn and you want people to understand what the messaging is really all about when we connect the boardroom to the shop floor and we simplify all this nonsensical complexity we're seeing out there?
I think to best explain it is our priority is to know your business better than you do. And if we know your business better than you do, then that starts to automatically take away the complexity because sometimes we get so lost in features and functionality, or we get lost in semantical terms and acronyms and all of this stuff. Like, let's just dial it back. At the end of the day, every business, whether they're compliantary or for revenue or for profit, they sell a service or they sell a part or they sell both. And when you walk it back, that's a finished product or finished service they push out, which ties to an invoice, which ties back to, a whole series of activities that a lot of assets needed to participate in order to get that thing done. And that's really the underlying message here is let's not worry about acronyms, whether the features there or the features not there. At the end of the day, it's about hitting the goal line. And the goal line is the viability of the business in delivering its products or services that it offers. And I think that the only way to really get out of the semantics or get out of that noisy spot, the weeds, whatever you want to call it semantically, is let's just figure it out. What does it take to run your business? Now, when we walk it backwards, we now are starting to factualize, not opinions, not. And look, I kind of tell everybody I respect everybody's opinion, but at the end of the day, facts are what actually matters. So it's really getting to know the business, prioritizing the business, all facets of the business. And I think when we do that, that's when we've got facts. That's when palatable solutions start to surface. And when we do it end to end, because we have a team, end to end team that looks at every facet, they're looking at the lens of the executive to the end of the front user, all of those lenses.
Well, that I think, when it comes to this concept of complexity and we want to move it to the background, it's not actually going to go away, right? The complexity is there, but when we talk about maintenance, asset management, asset performance management, digitization, all the acronyms and fancy schmancy stuff. I've never said fancy schmancy on here before.
I love it.
It's really getting down to the basics. And I think, like, for me, I don't want people to think what I mean is dumb it down. What I'm kind of harping on, and a lot of the people we know in common, I'm not a CMRP, right? I lean on you guys that are really real about this. But the simplified approach is boiling it down to what actually matters with where you're standing in the plant, on the shop floor. And as you move closer and closer to the boardroom, you got a lot of stuff in between that matters and is connected. You need to know that stuff, but you don't need to like understand it backwards, forwards, top to bottom when it comes to doing your job, doing the right kind of maintenance. And I think my question, I'm talking a lot here, when it comes to maintenance best practices, asset management, why do we always keep talking about those basic elements? And why do you think everyone is still not doing it more often than they're doing it?
So, a couple of things. I think the first thing is the old semantical term. Everybody thinks that there's one silver bullet. There isn't. Number one, it's very simple: people, practice, products. It's going to take bullets in every one of these three facets to make it work. Number one. Number two is you talked about fancy schmancy. I use terms like swag, bling, foo foo dust. There's no swag, there's no bling, there's no foo foo dust, but there are facts. And the facts are the P&L, the balance sheet, the retention on customer, the compliance rates. Those are all facts. So you can want to have all of this foo foo dust and think that it's doing something, but those four aspects I just talked about are facts. And if you are really looking to understand your asset management program and really, really implement the things that you think are most critical to them, then you better start with facts, not with functionality, not with features. And look, Hexagon, I've always kind of said it. I'm a little bit biased. I think it's It's the best of its kind. It's a leader in its space, but there are other products out there that relative to what they do and how they perform, do the exact same thing. But there is no product out there that will do maybe kinda. I wish it did this. I I think so. Like those aren't facts,
Right.
right? And I think once people start to get away from some of that fuzziness and they start to get closer to facts, they start to get closer to their solution. And one of the biggest things that I've really started to learn, I think it's been in the last 10 years, and it goes back to swag and bling. What exactly do I need versus what exactly do I want?
Mm.
And I think that might be another place that people start to think about is what exactly do I need in this moment? Let's get that nailed down. Because if I have what I need, guess what I'm going to be talking about? I wonder if I could do that. I wonder if I could do this now. I wonder if I could do that now. And it's the different conversation than I really wish my system could do that. I really wish I didn't have to go into Excel and mash together 6 templates. So with that said, is why don't you obviously invest in where you are today and where you need to be tomorrow with a product like Hexagon EAM, because you're going to get that. They've committed to that, um, and really focus on that and get into the facts and stay out of the weeds. People, practice, and products.
So when we get into more of the overall functionality of a solution, I don't want to talk about the functions or the features, but let's forget which product it is. Let's say, for example, we've got a strong culture of maintenance excellence happening in our plant.
Yep.
Maybe it's lumber, maybe it's pulp and paper, maybe it's oil and gas, all these different things. So let's say we've got this culture of excellence, the team's moving well together, whatever the system is they have, they're logging things, they're putting in good information, you've got standardization so that everybody's essentially speaking the same language in the platform. What are some of the things that you want to see? Let's say you're walking into one of these environments and you're going to talk to people. First, you're going to look around and see what's there, what's not, ask what problems they've been having in that world, not in the software. But now, how does whatever system, CMMS, EAM, APM, whatever, what kind of reports, what kind of data are you looking at that would help you make an assessment of what has been happening and what needs to happen? Are there certain types of report data that you're after, such as downtime events, mean time between failures, mean time to repair? Are there any that for you are like, anywhere I go, I want to know what's going on with this, and this, because that tells me something?
100%. The very first one is cost of maintenance per unit produced or per unit sold, right?
Okay.
And again, here there's different measures for different industries, but if you don't know what your cost contribution is to the service or the product that's going out the back door that you're cashing a check for, self-inflicted wound, because the only way that you can improve yield is to actually know what that is. Number one.
Mm.
Number two, if I'm in a compliatory business like your public sector type people, is how well can I comply? At the end of the day, I have to produce to the constituent, and that tells me that I need to stay on the compliant piece. If I'm for profit, and I've put together a engineered system that has a standard that it's meant to operate, at 80% nominal operating, 85 on kind of an aggressive side, and 75 on a low end side. I would really want to know what uptime downtime is. And then certainly, one of the realities is the mean time between failures. Um, because if we're seeing a lot of very, very I call them checkered. Um, uh, in a scatter diagram, if we're getting a pretty bad checker around nominal operating or optimal operating line, then we've got bigger problems. And then, you know, the next thing is really the mean time to repair and the mean time to respond, because those are usually indicators. Number one, mean time to respond. Look, are we, you know, are we falling asleep at the wheel, or are we getting to it where when we need to get to it? And the turnaround time or the mean time to repair is another big one. That's a true tall tale. Are we ready when it does occur? If we're not ready, that's going to come out in the wash on the total turnaround time. And, you know, those are all immediate, what I call very simple off the cuff metrics that can tell me, number one, are we on our game by responding? Do we have everything that we need by the turnaround time of the repair? Am I getting the compliance in there to know that we're safe? Yeah, I've got redundancy all over the place, so we'll get to it, but I need to know that we're safe and we're given the constituent. If I expect it to run 80 to 85% of its, time, and I'm only getting 75, then we got a problem. And the biggest one for me at the end of the day is maintenance cost per unit or hour, whatever you want to call it, whatever SKU you service to cash a check. That's the biggest one for me, because if we're not inside a happy space there, I've got some people that are going to get real nervous and come see me and ask me what we're doing wrong. So
Well, so that for you, that's where you're looking for the opportunity. If
you've
it's
got it.
not in line and if it's not acceptable, then you want to look at it, analyze it, find those facts that you're looking for, not all the stuff that's kind of on the fringe of those facts. Although sometimes that helps you find the facts, right? Breadcrumbs. But then what I keep wondering about when you talk about that, I think there's sometimes these sunk costs inside of these various metrics that can we we may or may not think an operation is running really really smooth from a production standpoint and a maintenance standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're talking production operators, maybe we've got good top line, bottom line, all that, but there's things inside of these metrics that can go askew and pump up the numbers, and you don't know where it's coming from, whether it's maintenance, which maintenance for everyone, what I think is maintenance is oftentimes really maintenance and repair, but they just say maintenance. One of the conversations I've had with a few different people, Joe Anderson is one of them, where operator, the style of operation, the material of operation can cause a lot of issues, far more than actual maintenance, but maintenance gets the bad rap for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that standardization I was mentioning before. Now I've learned this from everyone else. It's not like I'm some guru or something like that, but you need that separation in the standardization of terms. You need to use failure modes, failure codes, so that those numbers don't have a bunch of stuff hidden in it, because that's where it gets harder and harder to find
Mm-hmm.
when you look at that report you're after. And now you're like, well, where's the problem? You might not be able to find it in the system, whatever system you're using, if it's not categorized properly. How common do you, how, that was weird, my voice cracked. How common do you find that happening in the various environments that you currently serve, or the ones that, when you go to a new one and maybe you don't do the business, but you see it where they've got this bucket and it should really be 3 buckets of data?
Every single one of them, and I'll tell you the first thing that we tell people is you can create a ton load of data, but if you can't author it correctly, and you can't stage it and prepare it correctly, um, you're not doing anything with it. We are a very, very, very aggressive and strong proponent when it comes to making recommendations about classifying, categorizing, ensuring that your EAM has a semantical term of closing codes, talks about problem, cause, failure, and now they've added symptoms and a few other ones to help with the reliability side. Those are golden nickels. Those codes and the ability to apply those codes and really rate and understand your jobs, your activities, even your part failures. We've got an organization we're working with right now that they've tried to do some part failure analysis and part warranty, and they just couldn't do it. And we've got EAM wrapped around it, and it literally blew his mind on a trend of a specific manufacturer of a specific sensor that is near $1,200, and they were going through them far faster than I go through paper towel here in the kitchen. And all it took was stripping out that spreadsheet and taking the time that they used on this semantical spreadsheet to actually record the records in there, run a report, and trend out, and they showed a plot to the manufacturer and said, guys, look, these are facts. These are facts from the people. We're not, there's no Excel spreadsheet here. And they were able to recover, I don't know, nearly, $500,000 in warranty reclaim. And they actually found that they helped the manufacturer identify a recall on one of their pieces. So to the crowd out here today, like like I've said before, look, I love opinions. I think they're great. I think they're awesome. Um, but at the end of the day, we are in a world that wants to deal with facts, and facts can be cultivated, can be built from data and information. So put it in, use it, code it correctly, and you've got information. When you have information, now you have context. And when you have context, you can now have conversations that will have substance.
Yeah,
So
I think
we're a big proponent of that.
oftentimes I'm talking about this idea of, quick deployments and quick wins versus putting in all and doing all the work to set up those closing codes and those things that are really going to have a much bigger impact, kind of long game versus short game. And I think that's one of the things that gets in the way when it comes to deployment of software. I think, and I'm asking you by saying what I think. I think if we remove the systems altogether, we go back to those basics, and then how do we get a better, more accurate picture? And organizations, the plant floor, the leadership, everybody's moving so damn fast. It's quicker and easier, for lack of a better term, to use those big generalizations to keep moving. However, when they start doing it the other way, and that's where you come in and you can help, hey, this is where you should go because we've seen this 1,000 times and we've really studied your environment, we've done an assessment, say we call it a facility assessment or something like this. Now we can do that work, and that's where you start level setting to then set them up for continuous improvement.
Correct.
And that's what they really want. The thing that's going to derail that, though, is leadership changes at that company. You lose a maintenance manager that's really a big proponent of, using this data in the right way. Frontline bought in. How often is that happening still to this day, where people leave and then the whole process that was really sticking well starts to fall apart quickly?
Yeah, a lot of it happens, and it really is something that I get curious about because, and look, I came out of the field and I used a home bake. I used to call it home bake, shake and bake, black screen, green letter, hybrid with a big whiteboard. And then I used MP2, and then we did EAM. I've been in probably seven other products. And I think one of the biggest things that I find very curious is maintenance practice, standard core maintenance practice can be facilitated by any system, even if you want to do it in paper. So let's not get lost in features and functionality, and the report doesn't run. Let's cut the crap, right?
I, I like exactly the way you said that, because that's the reality. And we're not trying to tear down systems out there that want to get the business and do the business. What we're saying is, don't be blinded by that bling that you're talking about, that swag, that shiny stuff. And I sometimes call them unicorn farts lately, just because it sounds ridiculous. But we love unicorns, but man, when they fart. So,
Absolutely,
with what
absolutely. So,
I, I wanted to I know I cut you off, but I wanted to have you help me differentiate between maintenance and reliability, because they're actually two things that one facilitates the other. Is,
mhm.
is is that correct? They're not
Yeah,
the
yeah,
exact same thing. Can you tell us a little bit about that, or me?
yeah, absolutely. So maintenance, when especially in my slanted view of the world, in maintenance, when I talk about maintenance, it's something that we're doing. It's something that we're doing, and whether that's an intervention on failure, whether that's some level of intervention through a preventative measure or even a predictive measure, um, it's something that we're doing. We maintain, right? I
Hmm.
get my car, I rotate my tires, I maintain. I take it down to the shop, they change the oil, I'm maintaining. Reliability is I usually tell people reliability is the capability of designing with reliability in mind. So, how reliable is this going to be? Even
Hmm.
if I get into an operator, and how easy can they operate it? A maintainer, how easy can they fix it? And then understanding reliability in how reliable is it going to be to the standard that I've written for its natural operation? Meaning the revolutions per minute compared to the setups or whatever those points are, how reliable are we? And the reliability side of the house comes from getting information from maintenance, getting information from engineering, getting information from the operational side. And it's those elements that start to go into more advanced, or what I would call a little bit deeper understanding, a little bit deeper measure to really recognize reliability. You know, are we doing reliability centered maintenance? Well, you think about reliability centered maintenance at its core without going into it, its primary is to listen, is to check, and it is to trend prior to failure. That's what it does, right? And that whole act prior to that was a maintenance act, right? And then we're following how it's performing and really understand it. And then we're doing something about it. We're intervening, or we're doing, some action. And I think people sometimes trip up on both. Maintenance is something that we do. Reliability is something that we design. We typically want to engineer, and we want to take the value out of the operational side and the maintenance side to really understand how reliable it is. And absolutely, and this is a thing in our world, if people aren't curious and have not resonated that we are a world of learning, and we are learning or we are a world that needs to continually just learn and improve, then they've set themselves up for failure. Continuous improvement is more part of anything that we do than people actually understand. And the reliability side helps us recognize how much more reliable we can be. Well, that's now getting into the continuous improvement tactics of what we need to do, and then operationalizing some of those by doing an engineering change, or by changing the way that we're doing our shutdowns and different things of those nature. And it's important that people are able to separate those things and not get lost in one over the other.
Yeah, this is great stuff. It's spoken plainly. When you and I get together, we can just talk, and I can be open about the fact that I'm not a CMRP and that I want to lean on you and your expertise along with a lot of these other real deal pros that I'm happy to bring on to help this entire industry. I want to help one person at a time. So first of all, Joe, thank you for being back on with me here on CMMS Radio. I can't wait to see you at SMRP. You guys are going to be there. I'm going to have some announcements about that in about a week for some of the cool stuff we're doing that nobody really knows about yet, but they will know very, very soon. I'm going to try to get this bad boy out pretty quick, probably next week as well. Hopefully, I might have to cut this if I drag my ass, but thank you once again for taking time out of your you're doing some R&R, hanging out with the family. So I really appreciate you making the time, and we're going to see you again real soon on CMMS Radio and at SMRP.
Yeah, we're grateful to be on here, and every opportunity that you and I can get on here, and if it's just one thing that somebody can take away and make their day a little bit better, their life a little bit better, it's all worth it. I really want to thank us. The whole Elevotec team thanks us for having us on here with you, and we're really, really excited about October and looking forward to getting together and enjoying some great time out there in Fort Worth, Texas. Thumbs up to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and thank you again for having us on here. Greatly appreciate it. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Joe.
Enjoy. Take care.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.